Hi, I'm Ron, your tour guide. Today we'll be visiting the Voortrekker Monument, which is located just south of Pretoria in South Africa. This is the front view of the Voortrekker Monument. The Voortrekker Monument was built in honor of the Voortrekkers. You may well ask, who were the Voortrekkers? They were a group of about 25,000 Europeans of primarily Dutch descent. They embarked on a great migration from the Cape Colony to the interior of South Africa. This migration was called the Great Trek. The laying of the cornerstone took place on the 16th of December 1938. The building of the monument was completed 11 years later in 1949. And the reason why it took so long was due entirely to the Second World War. Surrounding the entire Voortrekker Monument are 64 granite friezes of Voortrekker wagons. This was the same number that the Voortrekkers used during the Battle of Blood River way back in 1838. I will elaborate on this particular battle when we look at the marble frieze inside the Voortrekker Monument in the Hall of Heroes. And here we have another side view of the Voortrekker Monument. Directly in front of the monument is a bronze statue of a Voortrekker mother and her two children. This statue was designed by the famous South African sculptor Anton van Bo. Above this are 4 granite friezes of black wildebeest. Black wildebeest portrays the dangers of Africa. In the world famous Kruger National Park you will only find the blue wildebeest. On 16 December 1938, 100 years after the Battle of Blood River, the cornerstone was unveiled by 3 great-granddaughters of 3 of the Voortrekker leaders. Behind this foundation stone is the pouch of Piet Retief, which contained the agreement between himself and Dingaan, King of the Zulus. Dingaan stated that he would grant land to the Voortrekkers on condition that he was able to return cattle that had been stolen from him by a rival chief. The stolen cattle was duly returned. As you can appreciate, this granite structure was very well built. This is a granite frieze of a Cape buffalo. The Cape buffalo in South Africa is a symbol of defense. The Cape buffalo is one of the big 5 in African animals. For those who are interested, the big 5 are 2 predators, lion and leopard, and 3 herbivores, namely the elephant, rhino, and buffalo. Many tourists often ask me, why are they called the big 5? This is a very good question. The reason why they are called the big 5 is because they are the 5 most dangerous animals in Africa to hunt on foot, not in a vehicle, on foot. We are currently in the Hall of Heroes. Many people have asked, why did the Voortrekkers, which is an Afrikaans name for people moving forward, embark on this huge migration, which started in 1835 and lasted about 4 years. There were many reasons, but for me, the most important reason was that all the Voortrekkers were looking for was their freedom from the British-controlled Cape Colony. Remember, during this time of history, the Cape was one of many British-controlled colonies throughout the world. This marble frieze of historical events during the Great Trek is 92 meters long, which is the longest marble frieze in the world. The Cenotaph is the focal point within the monument. The few words on top of the Cenotaph simply states, Ons vir jou Suid-Afrika. Translated into English, we for you South Africa. For those who may be interested, a cenotaph is an empty grave, whereas a sarcophagus contains the remains of a human body. Every year at noon, on the 16th of December, through the small hole in the roof of the dome, a ray of sunlight will shine on the cenotaph. It only lasts a few minutes.
5 minutes, that's weird.
The architect, Gerard Moerdijk, designed the marble floor in the Hall of Heroes to look similar to the pattern of a chevron, which in the eyes of the architect had to depict moving water. This panel clearly illustrates some of the Voortrekkers departing from the British-controlled Cape Colony to the interior of South Africa. There was not just one group, but several groups, leaving in different directions, but always either north or east. Each group would have been under the control of a Voortrekker leader. This panel portrays the signing of the peace treaty between Dingaan, king of the Zulus, and Piet Retief, one of the Voortrekker leaders. Many tourists have often asked me how did the two men communicate, as they both spoke different languages. Excellent question. Fortunately, Piet Retief brought with him Thomas Halstead, an interpreter who spoke fluent Afrikaans, the language of the Voortrekkers, and Zulu. Thomas Halstead was the son of an 1820 British settler who obviously loved different languages. Thomas is the man without a hat. This agreement was found later in the pouch on the dead body of Piet Retief by Andries Pretorius, another Voortrekker leader and hero. As the story goes, on the 6th of February 1838, 2 days after the peace treaty had been signed, Dingaan, as a token of appreciation for returning the stolen cattle, invited Piet Retief and his party of 100 men to the Royal Kraal for a celebration. The Voortrekkers left their weapons outside the kraal as a token of good faith. During the celebrations, Dingaan stood up and shouted in Zulu, "Kill the magicians." This order was duly carried out and all 100 men were clubbed to death. After the killing of Piet Retief and his party, Dingaan ordered his warriors to attack the Voortrekker lagers at both Bloukrans and Weenum. The Voortrekkers did not expect this attack, as they were all hoping that Piet Retief had earlier a successful meeting with Dingaan. Well, unfortunately, as previously indicated, this did not happen. The unsuspecting Voortrekkers were attacked by about 10,000 Zulu warriors, also commonly known as Zulu impis. Over 500 Voortrekker men, women and children were killed in these two raids. A few Voortrekkers managed to escape and rode on horseback to warn the other Voortrekker lagers of impending attacks. Here we have a very interesting panel. This panel pays tribute to a very brave Italian woman who on horseback went to warn the other Voortrekkers during the night of the Blaukrans attack. Her warnings enabled the Voortrekkers to be better prepared for future attacks by the Zulu warriors. No doubt that this heroic act probably prevented further great loss of life amongst the Voortrekkers. This is a most important frieze, as it clearly depicts the important role that women played during the Great Trek. The men are all very dejected, but the woman has her arm raised and pointing in a northerly direction. Come on, men, we have come so far and are not going back to the Cape Colony to again be ruled and controlled by the British. Ten months after the killing of Piet Retief by Dingaan, king of the Zulus, on 16 December 1838, about 15,000 Zulus attacked the Voortrekker lager of 64 wagons. Andries Pretorius was the Voortrekker leader during this battle, and he placed the 64 wagons in a strategic position. On one side was a river, and on the other a deep valley. The battle lasted all morning, and about 3,000 Zulu warriors died in this particular battle. The battle was so fierce that the river turned red, hence the name the Battle of Blood River. This is the final marble frieze and depicts the signing of the Sand River Convention in 1852 between the Voortrekkers and the British. This was a momentous chapter in the history of the Voortrekkers, as the British at long last, handed over the Transvaal and the Orange Free State to the Voortrekkers. The establishment of these two republics was very important to the Voortrekkers, as they now had achieved what they initially set out to do 17 years ago.
Okay.
This is a replica of one of the wagons which were used by the Voortrekkers to move through the interior of South Africa while looking for greener pastures. Thus, to sum up, there were primarily four reasons for this great trek. 1. To avoid the high taxes that were imposed by the British in the Cape Colony. 2. No longer able to use slaves on their farms while at the Cape Colony. 3. The continual conflicts between themselves and the 1820 British settlers. And finally, all that the Voortrekkers were seeking was their freedom from the British-controlled Cape Colony. It took 8 women 9 years to do the embroidery of this beautiful tapestry in the Voortrekker Monument. The series of tapestries depict scenes from the Great Trek, placing the accent on the role of woman. The tapestry contains, can you believe it, 3.3 million stitches. The design was apparently undertaken in 1938, but I'm not sure when they actually started the embroidery of the paintings. It is made up of 15 panels and is no doubt a magnificent display. I doubt very much whether these 9 women ever did embroidery again. Voortrekkers in the Cape saying their farewells to family members prior to the Great Trek. Many of the elderly folk had to stay behind. The Voortrekkers getting ready for the Great Migration from the British-controlled Cape Colony to the interior of South Africa. Little did they know what lay in store for them. It was most certainly an epic journey, and without a shadow of doubt, a mighty adventure. During this great trek, the Voortrekkers had to cross many rivers, and as you can see from the tapestry, they had to build wooden rafts to carry the ox wagons across the various rivers. During this migration, the Voortrekkers encountered many battles with the Zulus. The woman played a very important role in helping the men to reload their muskets. A peaceful setting at one of the many Voortrekker camps. Time to rest. Notice everyone is doing some task, and you will also notice dry salted meat hanging between 2 trees in the background. This was a favourite delicacy of the Voortrekkers, and even today in South Africa, most butchers and supermarkets will sell this dry meat, which is referred to in South Africa as biltong. It's B-I-L-T-O-N-G. So when you visit South Africa, don't forget to buy some biltong. You will not be disappointed. It may take a short while to acquire the unique taste. Unfortunately, many Voortrekkers died during this great trek, many from being killed in the various battles, but also from other ailments such as malaria and other waterborne diseases. Extensive repairs had to be continually made as the surrounding terrain was most certainly not conducive to easy travel. Here is an example of the rugged terrain which the Voortrekkers had to cross in their journey to the interior of South Africa. In the background is the Drakensberg range of mountains. This range extends from the Eastern Cape province to the province of KwaZulu-Natal and is about 1,200 kilometers long, 750 miles. You may ask, what does Drakensberg mean? In English, the answer, Dragon Mountains. Another fearsome battle against the Zulus. Again, notice how involved are the Voortrekker women. After many of these battles against the Zulus, extensive repairs had to be carried out. All able-bodied men, women and children had to partake in these repairs. Also, they had to attend to the injuries to those Voortrekkers who had been wounded in the various battles. Reading a passage from the Bible. The Voortrekkers were primarily Protestants. Readings from the Bible took place on a daily basis. The Battle of Blood River, which took place on the 16th of December 1838. This tapestry clearly indicates how fearsome this particular battle was against the Zulus. I have already described this battle in one of the marble friezes inside the Hall of Heroes. On each corner of the Voortrekker Monument there are 4 huge granite statues of Voortrekker leaders. This one in particular is the one of Andries Pretorius. He was the hero at the Battle of Blood River in 1838. The second one was Piet Retief, who was killed by Dingaan, king of the Zulus, in February 1838. The third one is of Hendrik Potgieter. He was the third Voortrekker to reach Delagoa Bay, now Maputo, in the country of Mozambique. And finally, an unknown Voortrekker leader. I hope you enjoyed the tour of the Voortrekker Monument in South Africa. If you enjoyed the tour, please like and share this video. Thank you.